Imagine you have a friend who is as steady as a rock. When you call in distress late at night, they answer. When you celebrate a victory, they're by your side with genuine joy. This friend remembers your birthday, the anniversary of the day you met, the name of your childhood pet, how you like your coffee. They are reliable through storm and sunshine. This is the essence of a Taurus friend. Taurus, an earth sign symbolized by the bull, is often the least likely to betray you. Why? Because loyalty isn't a chore or act for them. It's part of who they are. It's as natural as breathing. They don't perform loyalty, they live it. Taurus values stability and consistency above all. Picture the earth itself, solid ground under your feet. That's the energy Taurus brings to relationships. Trust to a Taurus is something built slowly, like layering bricks to build a home. Each shared secret, each favor done, each hardship weathered together is another brick in a sturdy wall of trust. A Taurus cherishes this wall and sees it as a shelter for both of you. Betrayal to them is not just an act of breaking trust. It's an act of self-sabotage, like tearing down their own shelter. It's completely against their nature to smash something they worked so hard to build. If you ever look into a Taurus's eyes, you might sense a calm, patient love. They aren't showy about loyalty. They may not swear grand oaths or dramatic pledges. Instead, they show up day after day in small ways, checking if you got home safe, sticking with you through dull or difficult times, defending you when you're not around. Their loyalty is proven through quiet, consistent presence. There's a saying, actions speak louder than words. For Taurus, loyal actions are their love language. They would feel shame in betraying a friend. It would violate their deep sense of integrity and their need for consistent values. It helps that Tauruses are generally risk-averse when it comes to relationships. They don't leap into bonds without thought. It takes time to earn their trust. But once you're in their inner circle, they hold on tight. Change is something Taurus typically dislikes. They prefer familiar people, familiar places. The bull plants its hooves firmly. It doesn't like to be pushed or to suddenly veer off path. In a way, betraying you would be a radical change in their life's landscape, and not a welcome one. Why trade a loyal friend for the unknown consequences of treachery? Taurus will usually choose the known comfort of a steady friendship over any short-term thrill or gain that betrayal might offer. Consider a little story. A Taurus man named Thomas has been friends with his college buddy for 10 years. They started a business together. One day, Thomas is given a lucrative secret offer by a competitor to sell out his friend's share for a big payout. It's tempting. Who wouldn't think about a sudden windfall? Thomas takes the weekend to reflect. He walks in a park, thinking of the early days when he and his friends sketched business ideas on napkins. He remembers the late nights, the mutual sacrifices, the trust they built. He imagines the fallout if he betrays his friend, the hurt on his friend's face, the destruction of something they built side by side. In those reflections, the money starts to lose its shine. On Monday, Thomas declines the offer. He'd rather earn success fairly together than get rich through betrayal. This is how a Taurus thinks. The weight of loyalty in their heart is heavier than the weight of gold in their hands. Philosophically, Taurus invites us to consider the value of trust as a currency. For them, trust is like a savings account that grows over time with steady contributions. A betrayal would be an outrageous withdrawal that empties the account entirely. Why would they bankrupt a treasure that means more to them than anything material? Many Taurus individuals view their close relationships as their true wealth. They often take pride in being someone others can rely on. It bolsters their sense of self-worth to be the steadfast guardian of the group, the one who stands unshaken when others falter. Of course, no sign is perfect. One might wonder, is a Taurus absolutely incapable of betrayal? In rare cases, if a Taurus does betray someone, it's often after long periods of provocation or neglect. Picture that brick wall of trust. It can withstand many storms, but if it's eroded slowly over time, cracks forming from repeated disappointments, they might reach a breaking point. Taurus has a threshold. They will endure a lot, sometimes too much, while giving you the benefit of the doubt. They might tolerate 2, 3, or more instances of you letting them down. They will likely talk themselves into forgiving and waiting, hoping you come back to your senses. But once that hidden line is crossed, once their sense of self-respect is truly wounded, they can become as immovable in ending a relationship as they were in nurturing it. When a Taurus feels forced to sever ties, they often do it quietly. Remember, drama and sudden change are uncomfortable for them. If trust is broken irreparably, they won't necessarily explode or seek revenge. Instead, a Taurus may simply stop engaging. They step back into their quiet space. Calls go unanswered, plans are always busy, and the garden of friendship is left untended. As one metaphor goes, they just stop watering the plant. The friendship, deprived of the Taurus's care, withers away. And when it dies, Taurus mourns silently and moves on. This is still not an act of betrayal from their side, it's self-protection. Even in ending things, they strive not to become what hurt them. They'd rather walk away than betray back someone who betrayed them. In the grand scheme, Taurus stands as a symbol of loyalty strength. They teach us that betrayal often isn't even a consideration when one's identity is built around being trustworthy. For a Taurus, being able to look in the mirror and know they stayed true is far more important than any temporary benefit gained from treachery. They ground us in the idea that loyalty can be a way of life, a quiet daily ritual of caring for those we love. As you drift in the calm steadiness of Taurus's chapter, consider the comfort of having, or being, a friend who would rather lose anything else in the world than lose your trust. Taurus shows us that, at least for some people, the surest way to keep your world secure is to never betray the ones holding you up. Now let's journey to the ocean's edge under a gentle moonlit night. The waves are soothing, protective, and familiar, much like the presence of a Cancer, the next sign in our ranking. Cancer is symbolized by the crab, a creature with a tough shell and soft inside. They are the nurturers of the zodiac, often wearing their hearts on their sleeves, or claws as it were. If Taurus is the rock-solid friend, Cancer is the warm embrace of emotional understanding. They are deeply loyal to those they love, almost to a fault. Betraying someone they care about would be like betraying their own family, or indeed, betraying their own heart. Imagine a Cancer friend named Clara. She's the one who brings soup when you're sick, who remembers that you had a big presentation and texts you a heartfelt, "Good luck, you'll do great," that morning. She intuits how you feel sometimes before you even say a word. With a friend like Clara, you feel seen and cared for at a soul level. Cancers form bonds that are intensely emotional. They don't take friendship or love lightly. When they commit to you, it's as if they've adopted you into their chosen family. In their mind and heart, you belong to them, and they to you, in the gentle way families stick together. Given this depth of attachment, it's against a Cancer's very instincts to betray. How could they hurt you without hurting themselves? Remember, the crab carries at home its relationships, wherever it goes. If it loses one of its cherished connections, it's like losing a part of its safety and identity. Cancers often have incredible memories, especially for emotional moments. They can recall exactly how you two became friends, what emotions were shared, the trust that was built over time. These memories form a kind of emotional tapestry that Cancer wraps around themselves. To tear a hole in that tapestry, by betraying, you would leave them feeling cold and exposed. One of Cancer's guiding principles is protection. They are protectors by nature. They will defend you, stand up for you, sometimes even fight battles on your behalf that you didn't know were happening. Picture a Cancer quietly correcting someone who badmouths you at a gathering, or fiercely stepping between you and an unfair critic. They often adopt a caregiver or guardian role in relationships. Because of this, the idea of them being the source of your pain through betrayal is almost unthinkable. It would mean failing in their self-appointed role as your protector. The devoted heart of Cancer simply doesn't align with the notion of stabbing a loved one in the back. However, Cancers are not naive. They are aware that betrayal exists, or in fact, they fear it deeply. They crave security in relationships. This sometimes makes them cautious about whom they let in. But once you are in that inner circle, they assume a mutual pledge of, "I will always be there for you." They trust you almost as much as they expect you to trust them. Breaking that trust from their side would fill them with guilt and anguish. It's not that a Cancer cannot lie or deceive. Anyone can under certain pressures, but it is emotionally costly for them. Even a small deception toward a loved one, like hiding a minor thing to avoid causing worry, can make them feel bad. Imagine then the scale of remorse a Cancer would feel for a significant betrayal. It's usually enough to deter them from even treading near that path. Let's consider a hypothetical scenario. Say Clara, our Cancer friend, somehow ends up with knowledge that could benefit her but harm you. Perhaps you both apply for the same promotion, and the boss accidentally emails Clara your proposal. She could easily use some of your ideas to bolster her own chances. A tempting situation on the surface. Clara stays up at night thinking about it. She really wants that promotion, and she's qualified for it. But each time she imagines standing in the spotlight at work, she also imagines looking over and not seeing you as a friend anymore. The thought makes her stomach twist. She recalls the time you lent her money during a tough month, or the time you confessed your insecurities about work and she comforted you. Those moments weigh heavier than any career gain. In the end, Clara deletes the email and even tells you about the mix-up, making sure you're aware of what happened, full transparency. That's Cancer's loyalty in action. The emotional bond takes priority over personal gain. This is not to paint Cancer as a saint without complexity. They do have a shadow side in the context of loyalty. Their loyalty, while fierce, is also sensitive. If they feel betrayed or unappreciated, a Cancer might withdraw. Unlike Taurus, who will directly distance when done, Cancer might initially retreat into their shell without a word. You might not even know something's wrong. They might go quiet, ostensibly to protect themselves from further hurt. Now, is that a form of betrayal on their part? Not exactly, it's more self-protection, but to someone suddenly shut out, it can feel like a betrayal. Cancers sometimes expect others to intuitively know what went wrong, just as Cancer would intuit it from others. If you don't chase after them or apologize, they may seal the entrance to their heart. Being on the receiving end of a Cancer's cold shoulder can indeed feel like being betrayed, even if from Cancer's perspective they're nursing wounds you caused. However, when it comes to active betrayal, doing something harmful behind your back, Cancer is one of the least likely to initiate that. It's telling that, in many stories and anecdotes, when a Cancer does betray someone, the reason often is tied to family or loved ones. For example, a Cancer parent might break a promise to a friend if it's necessary to protect their child. Their hierarchy of loyalty is strongly defined. Their family, blood or chosen, comes first. If you are part of that inner circle, you're nearly safe from being betrayed by them. If you're outside of it, they can be polite and kind, but they don't owe you their heart. Betrayals rarely happen in that realm either, because they simply wouldn't invest enough to create a betrayal scenario. There's a profound philosophy in Cancer's approach. Loyalty is an emotional ecosystem. To a Cancer, the interconnected feelings between people are like a delicate tidal pool. Each creature in it, each friend or family member, relies on the others to keep the water clean and safe. If one creature poisons the water, all suffer, including the one who caused it. Thus, betraying someone they love would poison Cancer's own emotional world. Why would they ever do that unless they were driven by desperation or fear? And if it happens, the scar it leaves on them lasts a long time. Cancers famously don't forget emotional experiences. They can recall old hurts vividly. Knowing this about themselves, they hesitate to inflict such wounds on others. Empathy is their compass. They naturally put themselves in your shoes. How would I feel if someone I trust did this to me? That question rings loudly in a Cancer's mind, steering them away from acts of betrayal. As you listen to this under the gentle metaphorical moonlight, imagine the comfort of having a Cancerian soul in your life. They are the type to hold your hand in the dark and promise that you won't face your fears alone. They exemplify loyalty as a form of emotional care. The lesson Cancer teaches is the power of empathy in sustaining trust. When you deeply feel for others, hurting them hurts you too. Therefore, the very thought of betrayal becomes nearly unthinkable. In a world where betrayal often stems from selfishness or disconnection, Cancer's gift is connection, so much connection that betraying a loved one would feel like severing a piece of their own heart. And who would willingly do that? Step into a grand hall bathed in golden light. There at the center is a throne, not a cold, authoritarian throne, but one draped in velvet and surrounded by warm laughter. On that throne sits Leo, the lion of the zodiac, radiating generosity and pride in equal measure. Leo is often seen as the regal friend, the one who brings sunshine into others' lives. They are dramatic, they are confident, and most importantly, they are extremely loyal to those they consider their own. In our ranking of who would betray you first, Leo comes out near the least likely end because of one simple fact: betrayal is beneath their royal dignity. To a Leo, loyalty is a matter of honor. They take great pride in being a protector and champion for their friends and family. Think of the classic image of a lion with its pride, fiercely protective, standing guard against threats. Leo sees their circle as their pride, in both senses of the word. They'll often act as the leader or the big brother/sister figure, ensuring everyone is all right. If you're close to a Leo, you've probably felt the warmth of their attention. They'll hype you up when you're feeling down, celebrate your achievements like their own, and defend you staunchly if anyone dares speak ill of you. They often adopt the role of cheerleader and guardian simultaneously. In Leo's ideal world, betrayal simply doesn't make sense. Why betray someone who is part of your pride? That would weaken the whole group. And a Leo's instinct is to strengthen and elevate their pack, not fracture it. Leos are also known for their straightforwardness. They are not usually shy about their feelings or opinions. If something about you frustrates a Leo friend, odds are they'll tell you. Maybe not harshly, Leo likes to keep their royal image gracious, but they may drop bold hints or playful jabs that actually carry truth. This matters because one common cause of betrayal is hidden resentment or unresolved conflicts. Leo prefers open conflict to hidden agendas. They would rather address a problem directly, maybe even dramatically, than let it fester in the dark where betrayal often brews. Consider a scenario: Leo and you have a band, and both of you share lead vocals. Suppose Leo feels that you've been hogging the spotlight or not acknowledging their contributions. A less direct sign might harbor jealousy quietly and one day sabotage you on stage, a betrayal. Leo, however, is more likely to confront you outright, perhaps making a grand speech that they deserve more solos, or maybe even pulling a dramatic stunt at a rehearsal to make their point. It might lead to an argument, voices might roar, but after that thunderous scene, things clear up. Either you adjust to share the spotlight, or Leo parts ways honorably. In either case, it's out in the open. A secret backstab isn't their style. It's too petty and too cowardly for them. However, Leo's strong pride and need for respect can come with a flip side. If a Leo ever does commit what feels like betrayal, it's often linked to their ego being deeply hurt. Respect and loyalty are two sides of the same coin for Leo. They give their loyalty generously, but they also expect unwavering loyalty and respect in return. If they feel humiliated or betrayed by you first, they can become cold and cutting. A hurt or angry lion might exile you from their kingdom swiftly. This is usually not so much a behind-your-back betrayal as it is a decisive, though sometimes harsh, retaliation or severance. For example, if you publicly embarrass a Leo or question their integrity, they may cut you off entirely or even try to tarnish your reputation in return, feeling justified that you asked for it. In their mind, they didn't betray you out of nowhere. You violated the sacred code of mutual respect, and they responded in kind to protect their honor. For Leo, betrayal is strongly tied to the concept of respect. Let's delve into a mini-story. Imagine a Leo friend, Leon, who has always been there for his buddies. One of his personal rules is to never speak ill of his friends in their absence. He believes loyalty means having each other's backs, especially when no one's watching. Now, suppose Leon finds out that his close friend, let's call him Mike, has been gossiping about him, belittling Leon's dreams to others. The proud lion's heart breaks. Not that he'll show the vulnerability publicly. Instead, Leon feels a rush of indignation. After all I've done, how dare Mike disrespect me like this? At this juncture, Leon might react strongly. He may confront Mike with a roar of anger and then end the friendship on the spot, telling others that Mike proved untrustworthy. Some might say Leon betrayed Mike by publicly outing the issue and shaming him. But in Leon's view, Mike betrayed first. Once that sacred trust and respect were broken by the other party, Leo feels no obligation to remain loyal. Essentially, Leo's stance is, I will be your greatest loyal ally, as loyal as a knight to a king, but the moment you turn on me, I won't quietly endure it. I'll respond swiftly and finally. It's important to highlight that Leo's tendency to cut someone off or strike back when hurt is not the same as secretive betrayal. It's more about decisiveness in relationships. They'd rather have a dramatic breakup than a sneaky affair, metaphorically speaking. They want to be seen as honorable, even in conflict. If you could hear a Leo's inner voice, it might say, I will not stoop to deceit. If it's war, let's have an open war and let the world know why. Another aspect, Leo, being ruled by the sun, thrives on genuine connection and honesty. They typically have a childlike straightforwardness in many ways. This sunniness usually keeps them from harboring dark secrets or hidden agendas for long. They actually like being proud of their actions. They want to be able to tell the story of what they did and hear applause, not hide in shadows. Betrayal, which requires secrecy and cunning, just doesn't give them that satisfaction. They'd much prefer to play the role of the hero, or at least the wrong hero, rather than the villain of any story. From a philosophical perspective, Leo raises questions about loyalty and self-image. For Leo, being loyal is part of their identity. I'm a noble, generous friend is how they see themselves. To betray someone would shatter that self-image, which they guard zealously. It would introduce shame, and shame is one of the few feelings Leo finds unbearable because it implies they've lost respect in others' eyes. Thus, their own need to feel proud and respected keeps them on the loyal path. It's a virtuous circle. They act loyally, they get praise or at least personal satisfaction, which reinforces their behavior. If you are drifting to sleep hearing this, picture a golden lion lying peacefully with a lamb, a symbol of strength protecting gentleness. That's Leo at their best. They protect those who are vulnerable. They lift up those who need confidence, often sharing their own abundant confidence, and they shine light on the people they love. In that light, there is little room for the darkness of betrayal. Leo's lesson about trust is that honor matters. Keeping one's word and having a loyal heart isn't just about the other person, it's a reflection of who you choose to be. And Leo chooses to be the friend who will roar in your defense, not whisper behind your back. Under the watch of this noble protector, you can feel safe as long as you offer the same loyalty and respect that they give to you. In a quiet library filled with neatly arranged books, a desk lamp glows on a diligent figure writing in a journal. This scene captures the spirit of Virgo, careful, thoughtful, and devoted in their own reserved way. Virgos are often the planners and problem solvers among friends. They might not declare undying loyalty with flowery speeches, but they demonstrate it through actions and practical support. In the ranking of betrayal likelihood, Virgo falls on the low end. They are unlikely to betray you outright. Why? Because betrayal is illogical and inefficient to them, and it violates their deep sense of what's right. Virgo is symbolized by the maiden, sometimes interpreted as a figure holding wheat, representing bringing in the harvest or separating the wheat from the chaff. This symbol hints at their analytical nature. Virgos like to sort things out, to understand, to improve. When it comes to relationships, they apply that analytical mind to being a better friend or partner. They notice the little things you like, and they try to do them. They remember that you prefer texts over calls, or that you love peppermint tea when you're sad. They observe and make mental notes. This attention to detail is actually a form of caring. It means they take the relationship seriously enough to put effort into it. A betrayal would run counter to all that effort. It would render those careful notes and mindful deeds meaningless. To a Virgo, that's just senseless. Imagine a Virgo friend named Victor. He's not the most emotionally expressive person. You might not even realize how much he values your friendship until one day you notice he's been quietly fixing issues for you, pointing you toward a good doctor when you mention a health concern, or editing your resume when you're job hunting, or simply giving practical advice that turns out spot on. Victor doesn't shout, "I'm loyal," but by now, you know he has your back. If someone slanders you with incorrect information, Victor will be the one to fact check and set the record straight, not for drama, but because truth and fairness matter to him. This brings us to a key point. Virgos value honesty and correctness. If betrayal involves deceit or breaking a promise, it's fundamentally a form of dishonesty or error. Virgos have a hard time tolerating errors, especially in themselves. The idea of themselves committing such a mistake, and yes, moral failings often register as mistakes to Virgos' mindset, is deeply uncomfortable. Virgos also think ahead. Before doing something, they run through scenarios and consequences in their mind. This trait can act as a safeguard against betrayal. Consider the typical impulsive betrayal. Maybe someone in a fit of passion cheats on their partner, or in a flash of anger leaks a friend's secret. Virgo is less prone to these impulses because they have a cooler head. They tend to pause and think, if I do this, what will happen? Could I live with myself afterward? Will this solve the problem or create a bigger one? Often this internal canvas stops them from doing something rash like stabbing a friend in the back. They foresee the mess it would create, and since Virgos dislike chaos and mess, they abstain. Another aspect, Virgos have a strong conscience. They are often their own worst critics. If a Virgo even says a small white lie, they might lose sleep over it, analyzing whether they did the right thing. Now imagine if they perpetrated a serious betrayal, say stealing credit for your work or spreading a harmful rumor about you. The guilt and self-criticism that would follow are something Virgos are keenly aware of and actively avoid. In short, they police themselves quite strictly. Being a good person is often integral to a Virgo's self-identity. They want to be fair, responsible, and reliable. Betrayal would mean failing those personal standards. It's not just you they be letting down, they be letting themselves down, which in some ways is even harder for them to bear. That said, Virgos are human, and under extreme circumstances, could they betray someone? Possibly, usually not out of malice, but perhaps out of disillusionment, or if they conclude the person no longer deserves loyalty. See, Virgos give a lot and have high expectations of themselves, but quietly they often have high expectations of others too. If a Virgo feels you have repeatedly been irresponsible, unethical, or hurtful, they might reach a point where they decide you're not worthy of their continued support. Here's where betrayal might come in, depending on perspective. Rather than an explosive confrontation, a Virgo's betrayal might look like a calculated exit. For example, a Virgo business partner who has tried to keep things honest might, after many incidents of you cutting corners, decide to report the issue to higher authorities or distance themselves legally to protect their own integrity. You might experience that as a betrayal. I thought you were with me, and you went to the board behind my back, but in the Virgo's mind, they were doing the right thing, correcting an imbalance or preventing a bigger harm. In essence, if a Virgo betrays, they often convince themselves it's for a justifiable reason or for the greater good. Think of a small parable. A wise maiden, Virgo, tends a village's granary. She works hard to keep the grain clean and safe for winter. She has an assistant she trusted, a friend, helping in this work. Over time, she notices the assistant sneaking some grain at night and spilling here and there. Rats begin to creep in. She warns the assistant, patches holes, double-checks everything. But the assistant continues out of greed. Finally, the maiden quietly informs the village council that her assistant cannot be trusted with the grain, effectively getting him removed from the post. The assistant feels shocked and betrayed. Why didn't she confront him one more time? But in her mind, she had already reasoned it out. The priority was the village's welfare, and she gave him enough chances. From her perspective, she acted correctly, even if it feels like a personal betrayal to the assistant. This illustrates that a Virgo's actions, when they seem disloyal, are often driven by principle or practical necessity rather than selfish ambition or malice. In day-to-day friendships, however, such drastic scenarios are rare. More commonly, a Virgo friend will stick with you, sometimes enduring quirks or flaws, while gently trying to help you improve. They might critique or nitpick at times. That's a famous Virgo trait, but that usually comes from a place of wanting things to be better, including you. It's ironically a sign of their investment in you. They see your potential and want the best for you. They wouldn't bother analyzing or offering advice if they didn't care. As long as they feel you're receptive and the relationship is reciprocal in respect, a Virgo won't betray your confidence or faith. They take their commitments seriously. If they promise to help you move on Saturday, they'll show up bright and early with coffee and boxes. If they're your roommate, they're not going to sneakily stop paying their share of rent or something irresponsible that leaves you in the lurch. It's just not in their discipline makeup. Philosophically, Virgos bring to the table the idea that loyalty is a responsibility. It's like a duty they assume once they enter a relationship. They believe in doing the right thing by people who have trusted them. There's a bit of a moral perfectionist in Virgo. They want to be reliable, honorable, just all admirable qualities that are enemy to betrayal. They also teach us about thoughtful friendship, that thinking before acting and considering the moral weight of our choices can prevent a lot of harm. In an impulsive world, Virgo is the voice saying, "Wait, is this right? What are the consequences?" That voice alone can deter betrayal. As you let this sink in, envision the Virgo energy as a gentle guardian of justice in your friend group, the one who remembers what everyone owes when splitting a bill, who makes sure no one's left out or unfairly treated. Maybe not flashy, maybe sometimes prude or strict, but deeply good-hearted in their intentions. Under a Virgo's watch, your secrets are cataloged and locked away securely. Your welfare is tended to with conscientious care. Betrayal simply doesn't fit into the spreadsheet. The honest analyst would rather solve problems, not create new ones through treachery. In Virgo's world, trust is a puzzle piece that completes the picture of a functional life, and they won't remove it and break the whole puzzle they worked so hard to put together. Feel the surge of adrenaline and the crackle of a campfire as we move to our next sign, Aries, the bold and fiery ram. Aries is often the first to charge into any situation, the first to speak their mind, and often the first to defend a friend in need. As a fire sign ruled by Mars, the planet of war and action, Aries carries warrior energy. They are passionate and can be impulsive, but they're also guided by a certain straightforward honor. When it comes to betrayal, Aries is generally not inclined to be sneaky or two-faced. It's just not their style. They'd rather confront you to your face than scheme behind your back. Aries prides themselves on being brave and direct. Picture a medieval knight with a blazing sword. They value courage and forthrightness. In the context of loyalty, this means if they have a problem with you, you'll likely know it directly. If they're loyal to you, they'll show it through actions, often dramatic ones. For instance, an Aries friend might physically step in between you and someone who's bullying you, daring the bully to pick on them instead. They might vehemently argue in your favor in a group debate, even if it turns into a shouting match. Aries doesn't shy away from a fight, especially if it's on behalf of someone they care about. This protective instinct makes them less likely to betray you. Betrayal would feel cowardly, an ambush without giving the other a fair chance. Honesty, in a blunt form, is an Aries policy. They often say what they mean, sometimes to the point of being tactless, but that very trait means you can usually trust their words at face value. If an Aries says, "I've got your back," they mean it in that moment with all their heart. They don't typically calculate loyalty like a strategy. It's more instinctive and passionate. In heat of friendship or love, Aries can be all in, charging forward with devotion. However, Aries is also known for its temper and impulsiveness. This is where the potential for betrayal can creep in, not in a cold, premeditated way, but in a hot-blooded, spur-of-the-moment way. For example, an Aries might accidentally betray a secret during a heated argument. Imagine you confided in your Aries friend, Arya, about something personal. Later, you and Arya have a fierce disagreement about an unrelated matter, and in the middle of anger, Arya blurts out, "Oh, stop acting so high and mighty. It's not like you didn't screw up your relationship last year," referencing the secret you told them. That's a betrayal of trust. But it happened not because Arya planned to use your secret as ammunition, but because in that explosive moment, Aries' fiery tongue outran their judgment. Aries often regret such actions almost immediately once the red haze of anger clears. They might be quick to apologize, genuinely remorseful, saying, "I was angry, I didn't mean to hurt you, I'm so sorry," and they usually mean it. This kind of scenario is something to be aware of. Aries may betray through impulse, not through cunning. Another angle, Aries is competitive and loves to win. In a scenario where an Aries and a friend are vying for the same prize, be it a promotion, a romantic interest, or even a sports match, Aries might get caught up in the drive to win. But more often than not, they prefer a fair fight. They'd rather race you honestly than trip you when you're not looking. If an Aries does trip you, figuratively, it's likely in the open, like they'll elbow you out of the way at the start line and grin, rather than secretly sabotage your equipment the night before. They want the thrill of victory knowing it was their strength that secured it, not subterfuge. Aries is also quick to forgive and move on from conflicts. They don't hold grudges as long as some signs do. Scorpio or Taurus might hold on to things much longer. Aries' memory for slights is often short. They might flare up and then, an hour later, act like nothing happened, expecting to be buddies again. This means if you ever betrayed an Aries, they might have an explosive reaction, but sometimes they can forgive if they believe it was an honest mistake or if you sufficiently prove your remorse. Now, how does this relate to Aries betraying you? It means that betrayal doesn't sit well in their own psyche. If they ever did seriously betray a friend, they'd feel that conflict and likely try to resolve it quickly, perhaps confessing in a burst of guilt or trying to make amends openly. They're not the type to live comfortably with a double life or long-term deceit. That inner discomfort tends to push them back towards honesty. Let's imagine a case. Aaron, an Aries, is in a situation where he accidentally overheard that his friend, you, is going to be offered a job that Aaron also applied for. The boss mistakenly leaves a hint that leads Aaron to suspect it. Now, Aries is ambitious, and Aaron feels a flash of jealousy and disappointment. In a weaker moment, he thinks, maybe I could subtly mention to the boss what your flaws to tip the balance. A sneaky thought for sure. But as Aaron approaches the boss's office, he likely becomes restless, heart pounding, his conscience and his natural forthrightness clashing with the idea of underhandedness. There's a good chance Aaron will just walk in and say, "I heard you might be considering my friend for the position. I have to be honest, I really want it and I think I'm the best person for it," effectively advocating for himself rather than undermining you. He's turned a potential betrayal into a direct confrontation, because that's what feels right to him. And maybe the boss still gives the job to you, maybe not. If you get it, Aaron might be mad briefly, but as an Aries, he'll likely blow off steam and then sincerely congratulate you, perhaps challenging you jokingly. All right, you got it this time, but watch, I'll be your boss in 5 years. Aries teaches us about loyalty in action. They remind us that sometimes betrayal happens not from malice, but from loss of temper or momentary self-centeredness. Aries must be mindful of their impulsive nature to avoid hurting those they care about. But their saving grace is that they are fundamentally without guile. They are often called the innocent child of the zodiac because of their straightforward approach. They don't like playing games, unless it's literal games or sports of those they love. In relationships, they prefer things be out in the open. If they love you, they show it exuberantly. If they're upset, you'll know. In many ways, that transparency is an antidote to betrayal, because betrayal usually thrives in darkness and pretense. Philosophically, Aries brings up the theme of honor versus victory. Is it better to win at any cost, or to fight fair and maybe lose? Aries, in their higher expression, chooses the honorable fight. They want to earn their triumphs. They actually enjoy the struggle and battle itself, not just the outcome. In friendships, too, they cherish that dynamic energy, loyalty as a two-way street where both friends champion each other. If an Aries ever betrays that bond, they've essentially lost the battle in a moral sense, and an Aries hates to lose. As you let Aries' chapter close, imagine the comforting scenario of having a friend who, though hot-headed at times, will leap to your defense without a second thought. They might get you into some scrapes with their impulsiveness, but they'll also get you out of scrapes with their courage. Aries will yell at you one minute and hug you the next. They might accidentally spill your drink or your secret in a heated moment, but they'll own up to it and try to fix it. Their loyalty is passionate and raw, not always the calm loyalty of Taurus or Cancer, but it's real. In the fiery forge of Aries' heart, betrayal mostly melts away, unable to withstand the blaze of their honest and brave spirit. Now we find ourselves under a vast open sky with the archer's arrow pointed towards the horizon. Sagittarius, represented by the archer, often a centaur drawing a bow, is the restless adventurer of the zodiac. They are known for their love of freedom, truth, and the next big horizon. Sagittarians are typically friendly, optimistic, and straightforward, but their fierce need for independence can sometimes put them at odds with the demands of loyalty. In our ranking, Sagittarius sits somewhere in the middle. They're not the most likely to betray you out of malice, but they might betray you through absence or abandonment, often unintentionally. To understand Sagittarius, you must understand their relationship with freedom and truth. This sign, ruled by expansive Jupiter, yearns for growth, learning, and experiences. They value honesty, sometimes to a notorious degree. A Sag will tell you the blunt truth, even if it hurts, believing that it's better to be honest. That strong moral compass and dislike of lies means outright deceitful betrayal, like scheming behind your back, is not a typical Sagittarius move. They usually find lying cumbersome and distasteful. If a Sagittarian doesn't want to be with you or work with you, they'd rather just tell you and walk away than deceive you while keeping up pretenses. However, Sagittarius can be inconsistent. They follow their heart's direction, which can change rapidly. One day, they might be enthusiastically making plans with you, and a week later they're halfway across the globe pursuing a sudden opportunity, leaving you blinking in surprise. It's not that they plan to abandon you. It's that in their mind, life is a journey and paths diverge, and they assume everyone will understand that. If you expected them to stick around through a grind of difficult times, you might feel betrayed if they suddenly opt out when things get heavy. It's a bit like a wild horse that runs with a herd until it decides to veer off to find greener pastures. The horse isn't attacking the herd. It's just following its own instinct. Let's illustrate with a story. Imagine you and your Sagittarius friend, Sam, start a small business. Sam is full of big ideas and infectious enthusiasm. They're the one who convinced you to take this leap in the first place. In the early days, Sam's energy is unmatched, working late nights, dreaming up expansion plans, cracking jokes when you both are tired. But as the business settles into a routine grind, Sam's attention begins to drift. One day, Sam excitedly tells you about a travel blogging opportunity that would involve touring Asia for 6 months. You remind Sam about the business. Sam says, "Oh, you can handle it. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I'll be back with great contacts and stories." Suddenly, you find yourself alone managing everything. The workload doubles on your shoulders, And perhaps you feel a pang of betrayal. Did Sam value an adventure over their commitment to you? From Sam's perspective, they weren't out to hurt you. In fact, they genuinely believe you'll be fine and maybe even benefit from them making new connections abroad. They see it as expanding horizons, not breaking a promise. But nonetheless, you experience it as a kind of betrayal or abandonment. This scenario captures Sagittarius well. They often don't consider their departure or change of plans a betrayal because they rarely promise absolute permanence. In fact, if you know your Sagittarius friend well, they might have even warned, I can't guarantee where I'll be next year. They see life as flux and assume everyone else is on the same page. It's often a lack of understanding rather than a desire to harm that leads to what we perceive as Sagittarian betrayal. There's also another form. Sagittarians prize truth so much that if you ever do something they consider a major violation of their ethics, they might cut ties swiftly or expose the issue without hesitation. For example, if a Sagittarius discovers their friend is involved in shady or harmful behavior, Sagittarius might report it or confront it publicly. Loyalty in the face of what they consider a moral wrong is not a given. In fact, many Sags feel loyalty should never trump truth or what's right. If you consider that scenario, a friend might feel, I confided in you, and you betrayed me by telling everyone my wrongdoing. The Sagittarian might say, it was the truth and people deserve to know. This high-minded approach is not common betrayal for personal gain. It's more like principled action that can end up betraying someone's trust for a larger cause. On the brighter side, Sagittarians bring a lot of joy and camaraderie. They often feel like your best friend in the moment, enthusiastic, generous, and fun-loving. They'll spur you to take risks and will back you up in a bar fight of life, metaphorically or even literally. They are pretty brave. Their intentions are usually good. They are the friend who, if they do hurt you, is genuinely surprised. I really didn't mean to cause you pain. And they mean that. Their frank apologies and discussions can sometimes patch things up because they're willing to acknowledge they sometimes prioritize their freedom too much. Let's consider betrayal in relationships, another light to view Sag. In romantic terms, Sagittarius has a reputation, perhaps unfairly generalized, of being the sign most likely to wander or fear commitment. This stems from the same root. They hate feeling caged. If a Sag feels a relationship is stifling their growth or experiences, they might break it off or even cheat as an escape mechanism. Cheating is a form of betrayal. A Sag who cheats often rationalizes it as the relationship was over in my heart already, or I needed to feel alive. It's not a calculated betrayal to harm the partner. It's more like their spontaneous drive towards something new overrode their sense of duty to the current partnership. Of course, from the partner's view, that is a huge betrayal. The Sagittarian may deeply regret hurting the person, but at the same time, they struggle with intense guilt because they also know deep down they felt trapped and had to break free. A Sag friend might similarly cheat on a friendship by suddenly spending all their time with a new group that's exciting or aligns with their current interests, leaving an old friend feeling ditched. This all boils down to one key concept with Sagittarius: loyalty versus freedom. Philosophically, Sagittarians pose the question, is it a betrayal to pursue one's personal truth if it conflicts with a commitment to someone else? How they answer is usually, personal truth and growth must be pursued, hopefully with open communication, but they can't be sacrificed. They honestly often hope they can do both, stay loyal and be free, and sometimes they can with clear boundaries. But if forced to choose, many Sagittarians will choose freedom, not because they don't care about you, but because betraying themselves, by living a lie or in a cage, feels ultimately worse to them than betraying another. However, when Sag can align their desire for freedom with loyalty, they become one of the most uplifting companions. They'll take you on adventures, push you to step out of your comfort zone, and share wisdom gleaned from their many experiences. They can be deeply philosophical, and their loyalty, when given, is often based on a sense of camaraderie and mutual understanding that we give each other space to be ourselves. A Sag who feels they can be themselves fully with you and still come home to your friendship will not easily betray that trust. It would be like shooting their own horse in mid-journey. In conclusion, Sagittarius teaches us about the delicate balance between staying true to others and staying true to oneself. As you relax to this thought, envision a horse running in the wild, occasionally looking back to nudge its companion to run alongside. That's Sag. They want you to run free with them. If you fall behind or try to fence them in, they might gallop ahead, thinking you'll catch up later once you see why they ran. In their ideal world, there is no betrayal because everyone runs forward at their own pace but in friendly company, sharing stories around a campfire at each day's end. If reality falls short, it's often not ill will, but different pacing. Under the Archer's stars, trust is an open road, and betrayal is usually just a wrong turn on the way to understanding that true loyalty sometimes means giving freedom, both to others and to oneself. High above in a starlit sky, the water bearer pours ideas and innovation down upon the world. Aquarius, the water bearer of the zodiac, is a bit of a paradox, deeply caring about humanity at large, yet often emotionally detached in personal relationships. They value friendship and have a strong moral compass about society, fairness, and truth. But when it comes to one-on-one loyalty, Aquarians march to the beat of their own drum. In our spectrum of betrayal, Aquarius hovers around the middle as well. They are not typically deceitful or vindictive, but they can be unpredictable and aloof, which sometimes feels like betrayal to those who expect more conventional devotion. To understand Aquarius, think of the archetype of the scientist or the revolutionary. They are often ahead of their time, immersed in ideas, and can be detached observers of life. They value honesty and straightforward communication. Aquarius is an air sign and values intellect and truth, so like Sagittarius, outright lying betrayal isn't usually their style. In fact, Aquarians often have strong principles. If they promise something, they mean it at the time, and if they change their mind, they might simply tell you rather than sneak around. However, the tricky part is that Aquarians have an intense need for personal space and independence. They don't like being emotionally smothered, having their autonomy restricted. If they feel a relationship, whether friendship or romance, is demanding conformity or emotional responses they can't authentically give, they may distance themselves abruptly. Imagine an Aquarius friend, Alex. Alex is the one who has a broad circle of acquaintances and enjoys group activities, especially ones that have a purpose, like a charity event or a political protest. Alex is friendly with everyone, but sometimes seems a bit hard to reach on a deeply personal level. Suppose you have a personal crisis. You lost your job unexpectedly. You reach out to Alex for support. Alex, being intellectual, offers you practical advice. I hear that Company X is hiring. You should apply. Also, the market is shifting. Have you thought about learning a new skill? This is well-meaning, but perhaps what you really needed was some emotional reassurance or just someone to listen to your venting. Alex doesn't offer much emotional consoling or check in on how you feel. Feeling a bit let down, you confide that you're disappointed and need a friend's comfort. Alex, surprised, might reply with something like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I figured helping you solve it was the best way to show I care." In Aquarius's mind, they weren't betraying you at all. They were helping in the way they thought best. But to you, their cool response felt like a betrayal of friendship expectations because they didn't provide the empathy and presence you were looking for. This scenario highlights that Aquarian betrayals are often more about emotional absence or misunderstanding rather than any intentional harm. Aquarians can seem cold or indifferent not because they don't care, but because they express care differently, often through ideas or actions rather than emotional displays. Some might call them fair-weather friends, but that's not exactly accurate. They can be there in bad times, but they approach those times with logic over emotion. If you interpret that as lack of caring, you might feel betrayed even if the Aquarius truly didn't betray you in action. Another facet, Aquarians are idealists. They sometimes hold their ideals above individual relationships. If an Aquarius believes strongly in a cause or a principle, they might betray even a friend or family member who stands against that principle. For example, if an Aquarian journalist has a friend who confides in them about some corrupt practice their company is doing, the Aquarian might feel compelled to expose it in an article for the greater good, even though it betrays the friend's confidence. The rationale is, this truth will help many people. I can't hide it just to protect one person. To the friend, that's a huge betrayal. To Aquarius, it's doing what's morally or intellectually right, prioritizing principle over personal loyalty. This is a key difference with Aquarius. They often value fairness and truth on a broad scale over loyalty to one individual if the two come into conflict. Additionally, Aquarius often prides themselves on being rational and not swayed by personal bias. So if a friend asks them to lie or cover up something, even minor, out of loyalty, an Aquarius might refuse because it feels wrong or inauthentic. They'll say, "I can't say your product is great when I think it isn't, even if you're my friend." I have to be honest. Some might see that as a lack of loyalty. The Aquarius sees it as integrity. However, Aquarians are also generally humanitarian and kind in a broad sense. They usually don't want to hurt people. If they realize they have hurt you, They can be genuinely remorseful and will try to make amends, though sometimes in a clumsy or overly logical way. For instance, Alex might later send you a book on coping with career change as a way to apologize and support you, rather than directly saying, "I'm sorry I wasn't there emotionally." In terms of reliability, Aquarians can be unpredictable. One month they might be constantly around, engaging in deep philosophical talks with you, and then suddenly they go off-grid for weeks, absorbed in a project or simply needing solitude. They might not think to inform you, because from their perspective, everyone should understand that friends don't have to be in constant contact to remain friends. Independence is assumed. If you have more traditional expectations, you might feel abandoned or that they didn't care enough to check in. Again, it's not premeditated betrayal. It's mismatched expectations of closeness. Aquarius in love or close friendship often believes that true loyalty allows room for individuality. They often give their friends a lot of freedom to be who they are, and they expect the same in return. Where they might betray you is if you try to box them in, they might break out dramatically. For example, if a romantic partner becomes very possessive or demands the Aquarian spend less time on their social causes and more time with them, the Aquarian might abruptly break off the relationship. To the partner, it's like, "You betrayed our love for strangers or for your hobby." To Aquarius, it's, "I had to live true to myself. Sacrificing that would be betraying myself." Philosophically, Aquarius stands at the crossroads of individual versus collective loyalty. They often side with collective ideals. The lesson Aquarius provides is that sometimes betrayal is perceived when one person's loyalty is to a principle rather than a person. It forces the question, should loyalty between friends override what you believe is right? Aquarians often answer no, it shouldn't. This can make them seem unfeeling, but from a certain angle, it's a high form of idealism. They want to be loyal to something higher, like truth or justice, believing that ultimately that benefits everyone. Now, if you are drifting into a peaceful state, envision Aquarius as a clear night sky full of stars, each star a bright idea. They're the friend who might not hold your hand through a crying session, but they'll come up with a clever plan to get you out of a jam. They might not remember your anniversary, but they'll remember that interesting article you mentioned and bring it up to discuss because they value mental connection. Under Aquarius's influence, betrayal tends to happen not with daggers, but with distance. If you can embrace the space they need and understand the heart that cares in its own airy, cerebral way, you'll rarely feel betrayed. Instead, you might appreciate that their loyalty often takes the form of respecting you as an individual, giving you truth when you need to hear it, and fighting for a better world that you both can live in. Aquarius's loyalty might not be warm and fuzzy, but it's often honest and principled. They teach us that being true to others shouldn't require being false to oneself, a complex lesson in the realm of trust. We now walk up a mountain path, steady and steep, reaching towards a lofty summit. Capricorn, symbolized by the sea goat, half fish, is the hardworking climber of the zodiac. They are known for their discipline, practicality, and yes, ambition. Capricorns are generally very dependable and responsible. If they say they'll do something, they will strive mightily to do it. These qualities would seem to make them very loyal, and often they are. However, Capricorn's keen eye for success and long-term goals can sometimes put them in situations where loyalty is weighed against achievement. Thus, in our betrayal ranking, Capricorn is edging towards a more likely side, not because they are inherently untrustworthy, but because they might justify certain betrayals as necessary steps or tough choices on the road to a greater end. Consider the Capricorn ethos. Life is a serious endeavor, and one must be prepared to make sacrifices for the sake of progress. Capricorns hold themselves to high standards and often feel a strong sense of duty to their family, to their work, to their principles. If you are within that circle of duty, say your family or a lifelong friend, a Capricorn will move mountains for you. They'll show up, they'll protect you, and they'll share the spoils of their success with you. But if you are outside that circle, and especially if you stand between a Capricorn and something they feel they must achieve, they can become surprisingly cold or calculating. Let's paint a scenario. Imagine a Capricorn woman named Catherine working in a competitive corporate environment. She's part of a team with her good friend David. They've both been working on a project, but Catherine has done the lion's share of the heavy lifting while David has been a bit more relaxed. Now a promotion opportunity arises, one that only one of them can get. Catherine honestly believes she's more qualified and that she's contributed more, which might be true. David, trusting their friendship and teamwork, assumes they'll support each other or find a way to share credit. But Catherine sees this promotion as a pivotal step in her career plan. When asked by higher-ups about the project, Catherine tactfully emphasizes her own contributions, perhaps downplaying David's role. She isn't outright lying. She's just curating the truth to favor herself. David ends up not getting any credit and is passed over. He feels betrayed. His friend effectively took all the glory for something they did together. From Catherine's perspective, she might rationalize it. I did do more, and I didn't say anything untrue. Plus, I've worked so hard for this. I deserve it. David will understand eventually that this is just business. This rationalization is classic of a Capricorn who betrays. It's rarely impulsive. It's a calculated risk or a weighed decision where the outcome, success, security, advancement, is deemed worth the moral compromise. Capricorns are quite adept at compartmentalizing emotions. In the pursuit of what they think is necessary, they can put feelings aside, both yours and their own, and get the job done. If that means cutting a deal, ending a partnership, or yes, stepping over someone who used to stand beside them, they can do it with a stony resolve. It might haunt them later. Capricorns do have consciences. They just sometimes put them on mute temporarily, but in the moment, they focus on the goal. That sounds rather Machiavellian, doesn't it? And indeed, Capricorn is the sign most likely to be associated with the archetype of the stern ruler or the shrewd businessperson. But there is nuance. Capricorns often justify their actions by believing they are for the greater good in the long run. If Catherine gets that promotion, perhaps she believes she can help David later, or that she'll be in a position to improve the whole team's situation. Endure the pain now for a better tomorrow is a Capricorn motto. They are often willing to be seen as the bad guy temporarily if they think the ends will vindicate them. However, many Capricorns deeply value their reputations as honorable and reliable. So a blatant betrayal that clearly paints them as disloyal can also backfire on their own psyche. They do care what their trusted circle thinks of them. So Capricorns are less likely to betray close family or longtime friends. Those loyalties are part of their foundation, their identity. Where they might slip is in more transactional relationships like colleagues, newer friends, or in competitive scenarios. Even then, a mature Capricorn often tries to find a solution that is ethical. Perhaps in the earlier scenario, a more mature Capricorn would have a frank conversation with David. We both know I've led this project, and I intend to pursue the promotion. I want your blessing, and I promise to take you under my wing once I advance. This way, they minimize the feeling of betrayal by being open about their intentions. On a personal level, Capricorns in relationships are typically faithful and steady. They're not huge risk-takers in love once committed. They usually won't cheat on a partner on a whim. It's too messy and jeopardizes the stability they cherish. If a Capricorn strays or ends a relationship abruptly, it's often because they calculated that the relationship itself was untenable or hindering their personal growth or goals. They may leave a marriage because they feel their partner is irresponsible and dragging them down. In their mind, that's not betrayal but survival and pragmatism. To the partner, it can feel like, you only cared about money or status and you left me when I wasn't keeping up, which is indeed a kind of betrayal of the emotional bond. Capricorn's likely betrayals come in the form of cold decisions. They may betray trust by keeping important information to themselves if revealing it doesn't serve their interests. They may choose loyalty to an institution or rule over loyalty to a person. For example, a Capricorn military officer might turn on a friend for breaking a rule because their sense of duty to the core comes first. They could agonize over it, but ultimately do what they see as their duty. Philosophically, Capricorn's stance invites a classic ethical debate. Do the ends justify the means? To a Capricorn who does betray, often they have decided, in that instance, yes. The sign's association with the planet Saturn also points to themes of karma, lessons, and consequences. A Capricorn may later face the consequences, external or internal, of any underhanded tactic they use, and being a sign of accountability, they'll often quietly accept it as the price to pay. You might see a Capricorn who once betrayed a colleague now mentoring young colleagues earnestly, perhaps atoning in their own way. One should also note that not all Capricorns betray. Many are the epitome of integrity. In fact, their deep fear of disgrace can keep them on the straight and narrow. But the potential for a strategic betrayal is there because of their comfort with sacrifice and hardship. If sacrificing a friendship is the only way to achieve a crucial goal, a less evolved Capricorn might see it as just another tough call leadership requires. More evolved ones try to find paths that honor both loyalty and ambition, believing that true success cannot flourish on the poisoned ground of broken trust. As you ponder this on your journey to sleep, Envision a mountain goat carefully finding footing on a narrow ledge. Sometimes to keep climbing, it might dislodge a rock that tumbles down. That rock could be a relationship or a commitment that Capricorn lets go of for the sake of ascent. Watching from below, it might seem like a careless drop, but to the goat, it was necessary. Capricorn teaches the complexity of loyalty under pressure. When life's demands are high, will we hold every bond sacred or choose which to keep and which to let break for a larger purpose? Under Capricorn's stern gaze, we confront the reality that betrayal can sometimes wear a mask of duty or pragmatism. It's a sobering lesson that trust, once broken for whatever good reason, may be hard to rebuild, and that every step up in life should be weighed against the people we step past or on. Capricorn, at their best, knows that a lonely peak isn't true success, and at their worst, learns it the hard way. In a serene garden at dusk, wind chimes tinkle softly as the scales of justice tip ever so slightly back and forth. Libra, represented by the scales, is the seeker of balance, harmony, and fairness. Charming and diplomatic, Libras are the natural peacemakers of the zodiac. They avoid conflict like a plague and try to make everyone happy. That very trait, however, can lead them into the murky waters of betrayal more easily than one might expect. Ironically, Libra might betray you not out of malice, but in an attempt to avoid unpleasantness or to please multiple parties at once. Thus, Libra ranks fairly high among those who could betray, largely because their fear of conflict can result in two-faced behavior. Libra's core desire is for everything to be smooth and pleasant. They value relationships greatly. Many Libras define themselves by their connections and their ability to maintain peace within them. If loyalty were just about loving you, Libra will be golden. They genuinely care about their friends and don't want to hurt anyone. The trouble starts when life presents situations where staying loyal to one person means displeasing or confronting another. Libra hates making such choices. They want a win-win solution always. But sometimes you can't please everyone, and a Libra under pressure to keep the peace might resort to less than honest tactics. Picture a scenario. You and another friend, Ben, have a falling out. Both of you are close with Lydia the Libra. You each vent to Lydia about the other. Lydia doesn't want to take sides. She empathizes with both of you. To you, she sighs and says, "Yeah, I see why you're upset with Ben. He was really out of line, but don't worry, I'll talk to him." She says something similar to Ben about you, nodding along with his grievances. Lydia is trying to soothe both of you, maybe genuinely hoping to mend the friendship. But what happens is she tells each of you slightly different things. Perhaps in trying to console Ben, she accidentally, or not so accidentally, shares something you confided, like even your name. Admitted she might have overreacted a bit. When she's with you, she might slip. Ben did say he feels bad, but you know how he is. He also thinks you were being dramatic. Now each of you hears from Lydia a version of the other's words that stings anew. Lydia, hoping to calm the storm, has inadvertently added fuel on both sides. Eventually, the truth emerges that Lydia was playing both sides to calm both sides, and both you and Ben feel betrayed. The irony is, Lydia never intended to betray either of you. In fact, she wanted to remain loyal to both. But by trying to be everything to everyone, she ended up being perceived as disloyal to all. This kind of scenario is classic Libra. They might promise two different people two different things because they cannot bring themselves to say a firm no to anyone. They might agree with viewpoints they privately don't share just to avoid an argument, leading others to later feel misled. Libras also have a hard time with confrontation, so if you wrong them, they might not tell you. They'll act like everything's fine to your face, but maybe complain to another friend later, a mild form of betrayal through gossip, instead of addressing it directly. It's not that Libras are schemers by nature. They're not typically plotting ways to undermine you. It's that in their quest to upset no one, they can end up appearing insincere or untrustworthy. Another element, Libras love partnership and hate loneliness. This can lead them to make poor choices out of fear of being alone. For example, a Libra in an unhappy relationship might not directly break it off. Instead, they might emotionally or even physically stray toward someone new who makes them feel appreciated, effectively cheating. They don't set out thinking, "I want to cheat," but the avoidance of directly hurting their current partner by breaking up, combined with their craving for affection, can catalyze a betrayal. They tell themselves, "I just need a little happiness on the side because things are so tense at home. I can handle it without anyone knowing and no one will get hurt." They're experts at self-justification if it means keeping surface peace. However, when the truth comes out, as it often does, it's far worse than if they had confronted the issues honestly. What Libras fear most, open conflict and disharmony, ends up happening in an explosive way as a result of the covert avoidance tactics. Libra's betrayals often have that flavor, passive-aggressive or conflict-avoidant missteps. They might not warn you that your plan is flawed because they don't want to criticize, and then when it fails, you feel betrayed that they never spoke up despite knowing the pitfalls. They might lend money to two friends who are at odds, telling each not to mention it to avoid choosing, and then both feel weird about Libra's secrecy. However, Libras also absolutely hate being perceived as the bad guy. If accused of betrayal, a Libra will likely be very distressed and eager to explain that they meant no harm. They might try to smooth it over by explaining their intentions and facilitating a resolution. Sometimes this works, sometimes it's seen as further manipulation. A lot depends on whether the Libra recognizes that sometimes a choice has to be made and tries to be fair rather than universally accommodating. On the positive side, a balanced Libra who has learned from mistakes can be the best mediator and a truly loyal friend in principle. They will champion fairness. If someone wrongs you, a fair-minded Libra will stand up, maybe reluctantly, but they will, and say this isn't right. They can use their charm and diplomacy to defend you in subtle ways that avoid an all-out fight but still protect your interests. The key is they need to value justice over just keeping things nice. When they do, their loyalty becomes something solid. They'll stick by you and try to reason with those who oppose you so that you don't have to clash. That's a high form of loyalty, using their peacemaking skills to ensure you aren't attacked, diffusing conflicts on your behalf. Philosophically, Libra throws into relief the dilemma of honesty versus kindness. Is it better to tell the truth and cause a disagreement, or to hide some truth to keep everyone content? Libras often err on the side of the latter, which can be a slippery slope. The betrayal often comes from lies of omission or white lies that accumulate. Libra's lesson is that genuine harmony can't be built on deception. Sooner or later, unaddressed issues or misrepresentations cause a breach of trust, the very thing Libra wanted to avoid. A wise Libra learns that facing a little conflict early can prevent a betrayal-level conflict later. As we reflect on Libra's place in this lineup, imagine scales tipping with the weight of promises and expectations. The Libra is trying desperately to balance them so no side feels heavier, but in doing so, they sometimes forget that being balanced isn't the same as being truthful or steadfast. If you're friends with a Libra, you likely appreciate how agreeable and supportive they are. But you might also have moments of doubt. Are they telling me what they really think or just what I want to hear? That uncertainty can feel like a betrayal of authenticity. Libra must learn to be authentic, even when it might cause a ripple. Only then can their natural loyalty to loved ones shine without shadow. In this gentle twilight garden of Libra, we see that betrayal can stem from excessive people-pleasing. Sometimes saying no or I disagree to one person is the loyal thing to do for another or even for your own integrity. Libra reminds us that true peace isn't the absence of open conflict at any cost. It's the presence of trust and honesty. Without those, any peace is fragile and may shatter into the very chaos Libra hoped to prevent. Drift now into a misty dreamscape by the sea, where two fish circle each other in an endless dance. Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, is symbolized by two fish swimming in opposite directions, tied by a cord. This represents the deep, emotional, and sometimes contradictory nature of Pisces. Compassionate, intuitive, and empathetic, Pisceans feel the world around them acutely. They are often the shoulder to cry on, the friend who truly gets what you're going through without you having to explain. With such a soft heart, one might think Pisces would never betray, and indeed, they rarely do out of calculated malice. However, their conflict-averse, escapist tendencies and impressionable nature can lead to forms of betrayal that stem from weakness rather than wickedness. That's why Pisces sadly ranks high among those likely to betray, not because they want to hurt you, but because they often lack the strength to confront problems or resist temptations. Pisces struggles with boundaries. They often have a hard time saying no, or distinguishing their own feelings from those of others. If someone they care about or even a strong personality pushes them to do something, they may go along against their better judgment. Then, afterwards, they regret it deeply. Imagine a scenario. You confide in your Pisces friend Priya about a personal issue. It's something very sensitive. Priya, of course, listens kindly and offers comfort. She would never intentionally blab your secret. But Priya has another friend, Kiana, who's very persuasive and nosy. Kiana senses something is up and presses Priya. I know your name is going through something. As a mutual friend, I think I deserve to know. Maybe I can help? Tell me what's going on. Priya feels torn. She doesn't want to break your trust, but she also doesn't want to upset Kiana or lose her friendship by seeming distrustful. Under pressure, Priya might spill a bit. Well, your name has been having a rough time at work, but please don't say I told you. Kiana nods, but of course the gossip spreads. When it comes back to you, you feel betrayed, your confidant leaked your secret. Confronted, Priya is mortified, perhaps even breaks into tears. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I just didn't know how to handle it. I thought Kiana would keep it private. In truth, Pisces often genuinely thought the person they yielded to would be kind or silent, or that the situation wouldn't blow up. They are idealists and sometimes naive about others' intentions. They also just crumble in the face of direct confrontation or pleading. Saying no strongly feels harsh to them, and they hate being the cause of someone else's disappointment or anger. Ironically, this leads them to cause greater disappointment later. Pisces is also a sign known to occasionally wear rose-colored glasses. They may lie or hide things not to be malicious, but because they wish reality were different or hope that by not acknowledging something, it might resolve itself. For example, a Pisces partner who is unhappy might avoid telling their spouse, and in seeking solace, they grow close to someone else. It might start innocently, just emotional support, but Pisceans easily form deep emotional bonds. Suddenly, they realize they are in love with two people or in an emotional affair. They didn't plan to cheat. It's as if they floated into it, carried by currents of emotion. When found out, they might say, I never wanted to hurt you. I was confused. I didn't know what I was doing. This can be painfully true. Pisces often doesn't fully know what they want or are doing when they're swept up by feelings. Betrayals by Pisces often come from such muddled, drifting circumstances rather than a clear decision to betray. This can be incredibly frustrating to those around them because it feels like the betrayal just happened due to Pisces' inaction or avoidance, which sometimes can feel even more unfair, like it was preventable if only they had more backbone. Another classic trait, avoidance. Pisces might promise you something and then not follow through, not because they intended to deceive, but because they overestimated their capacity or just procrastinated until it was too late. Maybe you count on your Pisces friend to submit a crucial group project component. They say they will, they mean to, but they get overwhelmed or distracted. Pisces can be prone to escapism in fantasy, art, or substances. The deadline passes, and they haven't done it. The group fails, and you feel betrayed because they assured you they had it covered. Pisces will beat themselves up terribly in such a scenario. They're not ones to justify it with, I chose not to do it. Instead, they'll lament, I'm so sorry. I messed everything up. I'm horrible. They truly feel the guilt. But in the end, the effect is as if they betrayed your trust to do their part. Pisces can also be influenced by stronger personalities. If a domineering partner or friend leads them into betraying someone, they might go along, seeking approval or peace. For instance, a Pisces employee might know their coworker, also a friend, is innocent of an accusation, but if a forceful boss pressures them to confirm the accusation or be seen as not a team player, the Pisces might weakly nod in agreement with the boss's false narrative. They hate themselves for it later, but in the moment they just couldn't muster the courage to contradict authority or stir conflict. This kind of quiet compliance is a betrayal of their friend, born from fear and weakness. Yet, it's important to highlight the other side. Pisces is also capable of profound loyalty and self-sacrifice, especially when they have clarity and when their empathy turns into action. There are stories of Pisceans who will give their last dollar to a friend, or literally risk themselves to save someone. Their kindness is boundless. The same traits that cause them to slip, sensitivity, openness, emotionality, can, when guided by a strong moral compass or support system, make them incredibly devoted. They might not fight for themselves, but they will fight for those they love if they can shake off their timidity. The thing is, they often fight best when they see someone else being victimized, their savior instinct kicks in. But if they are the ones under pressure to betray, they might not have the backbone to resist. Philosophically, Pisces embodies the tension between idealism and reality. They want everyone to be happy and everything to be beautiful. When reality is uglier, when they're forced to choose sides, to keep a painful secret, or to confront someone, they struggle to cope. So they might lie or hide or drift into something that provides momentary comfort. The paradox is their intention is often to cause the least harm. I didn't tell you the harsh truth because I didn't want to hurt you, or only lied because I didn't want you to worry. These are common Pisces defenses. Their heart may be pure, but their way of executing its will can be flawed. Pisces teaches us about the danger of passivity, that not choosing, not resisting, can itself be a form of choice, sometimes the choice to betray by default. Perhaps no sign hates the word betrayal more than Pisces, because it implies malicious intent and treachery, which goes against their self-image as kind souls. But they must learn that impact matters as much as intent. You can hurt people deeply even if you didn't mean to, and saying, "I didn't mean to" doesn't undo the damage. This is a life lesson for many Pisceans, to step up, to set boundaries, to be honest even when it's hard, so that their natural compassion isn't overshadowed by the pain they inadvertently cause. As you float in the gentle waters of Pisces' realm, you can feel the empathy and genuine love they often radiate. If you've been betrayed by a Pisces, you might have a confusing mix of anger and pity, because you know they're not evil. If anything, they were weak or lost. If you're loved by a Pisces, you feel like a warm ocean current enveloping you. The key is to anchor that love with a bit of earth, encourage accountability, and Pisceans can rise to it. In the end, a loyal Pisces is one who has found the courage to face discomfort for the sake of those they love. That is a beautiful thing, the gentle soul who, for you, will swim against the tide rather than be carried away. And so, in the quiet lullaby of these waves, Pisces leaves us with a tender lesson. Sometimes the kindest hearts must learn to be strong, because without strength, kindness alone may drift into betrayal. A lively breeze swirls around us, carrying snippets of conversation and laughter from unseen places. In this playful air, we meet Gemini, symbolized by the twins. Ever-changing, curious, and quick-witted, Gemini is the social butterfly of the zodiac. They are often great fun to be around, full of stories and ideas. Yet their very versatility and dual nature have given them a reputation. In the lore of astrology, if any sign is casually labeled two-faced, it's Gemini. While that's a simplistic take, it hints at why Gemini ranks as one of the most likely to betray. Inconsistency, impulsiveness, and a tendency to compartmentalize different aspects of their lives can lead them to break trust before they even fully realize it. First, the Gemini gift. They can genuinely see multiple sides to any situation. In a trust context, this can make them good mediators or flexible partners. But it also means they can rationalize almost anything. A Gemini might convince themselves one thing one day and a completely opposite thing the next, and both make perfect sense at the time. If yesterday they swore loyalty to you, and today they have a shiny new opportunity that conflicts with that loyalty, they might pivot with astonishing ease, having come up with a justification that satisfies them, and they might be surprised if you're upset, because in today's perspective, the change is logical to them. Consider a scenario: Gina the Gemini is your coworker and friend. The two of you have been complaining about your boss and plotting to ask for better conditions together. Gina enthusiastically chats with you after work, planning strategy, seeming totally on your team. The next week, however, upper management offers Gina a solo promotion, taking her out of your department altogether, on the condition she keep it secret for now and certainly not join any revolt. Gina, ever adaptable, thinks, "Well, this is great for me. And I didn't sign anything with my friend, we were just talking. I'll take the promotion, it's not personal, it's just a better opportunity." So she accepts and says nothing to you. You find out later through the grapevine. Not only do you feel abandoned, you were left to fight alone, but it feels like a betrayal because Gina never told you she was considering leaving the plan. When you confront her, Gina might genuinely say, "I'm sorry, but I didn't think it was such a big deal. The plan wasn't official, and this promotion will help me grow. I was going to tell you once it was confirmed." To her, the situation has simply changed and she's flowing with it. To you, she broke an unspoken pact. This illustrates a common Gemini blind spot. They live a lot in the moment and in the intellect, so they might not emotionally register the depth of a commitment or promise unless it's formally cemented. Words come easily to Geminis, sometimes too easily. They might promise you the moon in a moment of excitement and genuinely mean it, but later either forget or change their stance when the mood shifts. It's not that their word was a lie when they gave it. It's that it didn't solidify into a lasting pledge in their often overstimulated, ever-evolving mind. Geminis are also notorious for enjoying gossip and communication. They usually don't intend harm. They just love information flow. But in that love, they might slip up and share something told in confidence because the conversation led that way and they had a relevant anecdote which happened to be your private story. They might realize immediately, oops, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Or sometimes they genuinely don't see the harm, thinking, well, I told it without names, or we all share things, right? This loose relationship with sensitive information can cause friends to feel betrayed. Many a friend has thought, I love Gemini's sociability, but can I trust them with my secrets? If the answer becomes no, due to a breach, that's the consequence of an unintentional betrayal through talkativeness. One must also consider Gemini's itch for novelty. They get bored easily and crave variety. This can translate into betrayal in love. A Gemini might care for their partner, but find themselves flirting with someone new just because it's interesting and different. They might compartmentalize. It's just flirting. It doesn't mean anything. And maybe it doesn't to them, at least at first. But to their partner, it's a betrayal of trust and exclusivity. Similarly, in friendships, a Gemini might jump into a new friend group and start ignoring their old friend, not out of malice, but because these new people are so fascinating. We're doing new things. The old friend feels dropped like a toy that's lost its shine. What's tricky with Gemini is often the lack of ill intent. They can earnestly defend themselves. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just changed my mind. Or that information wasn't that serious. Or it was all in good fun. And sometimes people might feel that Gemini doesn't comprehend the gravity of what they've done. It can feel like betrayal by carelessness or lack of depth. Some interpret that as Gemini being shallow. In truth, Geminis can feel deeply, but they often intellectualize their emotions or switch them as they would channels, trying not to be pinned down. On the flip side, the self-aware Gemini can be an incredible ally. They have the social skills to protect you in public, like talking down a rumor or cleverly redirecting conversations that could embarrass you, and they can negotiate on your behalf expertly. If they choose to be loyal, they can use their adaptability to find ways around situations that might tempt others to betray. For example, instead of lying to two parties, they might broker an agreement or find a witty solution that satisfies both a true Gemini talent when they put their mind to it. The twin nature also means they can hold two perspectives, theirs and yours, and if empathy is engaged, this can make them quite considerate. The trouble is keeping that empathy consistently turned on, which requires slowing down and reflecting, something not all Geminis do readily. Philosophically, Gemini raises questions of consistency versus change. Is a promise eternal or only as good as the moment it's in? Geminis often live as if the latter is true. They're creatures of flux. But trust usually demands a degree of consistency over time. A mature Gemini learns to reconcile these by setting certain core values that don't change even as they themselves do. Until then, those around them might need to gently remind them of commitments and not assume malice when things go awry, but rather gently hold them accountable. As we breeze through Gemini's realm, you might feel the excitement of unpredictability, every conversation a spark, every day a new possibility. Being friends or partners with a Gemini can be like riding a lively breeze that shows you many corners of life. Just sometimes, that breeze carries your secrets away or changes direction when you least expect it. The lesson here is that trust isn't a one-time exchange for Gemini. It's a continuous process, a conversation, a dance of communication. If you can keep talking openly to them, hey, I really need you to keep this between us, or it hurt me when you changed plans, Geminis who care will respond. Communication is their forte after all. Betrayal can often be headed off at the pass with Geminis by clear dialogue and a bit of patience as they reconcile their dual impulses. And once they consciously commit, they often surprise you by being steadfast, because they've intellectually decided that loyalty to you is also part of their multifaceted identity. We arrive at the final chapter of our journey, and fittingly, night has fallen. Under the cloak of darkness, we venture into a shadowy desert where, hidden under a rock, a scorpion waits, still, intense, and potentially deadly. Scorpio, symbolized by the scorpion, is often considered the most intense and enigmatic sign of the zodiac. When it comes to betrayal, Scorpios carry a dual reputation. Some say they are the most loyal ride-or-die allies, while others warn they are the most treacherous if crossed. How can it be both? The truth is, a Scorpio is extremely loyal until they're not. And once that line is crossed, they can indeed become the most likely to betray, because in their mind, it's not betrayal at all. It's vengeance, justice, or self-preservation. In our ranking from least to most likely to betray you first, Scorpio stands at the top, or rather, the bottom. But the paradox with Scorpio is that if they are truly on your side, they are the least likely to betray. It's switching sides that can happen swiftly and with devastating effect if something triggers it. To understand Scorpio, think in terms of all or nothing. This sign doesn't do lukewarm. If a Scorpio cares for you, they invest deeply, they learn everything about you, protect your secrets as if they were their own, and will confront any external threat to you with ferocity. Many people with a Scorpio in their life will attest that they have never known a more loyal friend or partner. However, Scorpios operate on trust and perception of loyalty from you as well. The moment they sense, rightly or wrongly, that you have betrayed them, or even just that you might in the future, their trust can shatter, and with it, all bets are off. Imagine a scenario. You and Serena the Scorpio have been best friends for years. You share everything. Serena has confided her deepest secrets, maybe a trauma from her past, and you have always kept them safe. One day, Serena hears through the grapevine something that suggests you were laughing about one of her personal stories with a mutual acquaintance, perhaps out of context. Maybe it's a misunderstanding, or maybe you did share a small detail thinking it harmless. To Scorpio, this is huge. Internally, it feels like a sting to their heart. I trusted you completely, and you shared something of mine. Now, a more evolved Scorpio might confront you calmly and ask what happened. But many Scorpios, in the heat of that hurt, will react differently. They will withdraw and go cold, perhaps without you even knowing why. Inside, they begin recalculating the relationship. If they betrayed me, what do I do? I feel hurt. I want to hurt back. A protective shell forms. They might decide to test you, or in worst cases, punish you. That punishment could be direct confrontation with harsh words, or something more subtle like leaking one of your secrets as payback. An eye for an eye, their wounded pride whispers. This is how Scorpio betrayal often happens, as a response to perceived betrayal. It can be disproportionate, it can be preemptive, and it can sometimes be based on suspicion rather than fact. Scorpios are naturally suspicious and prone to jealousy. They crave depth and security, but also constantly scan for threats to that security. If you have a Scorpio lover and you even casually flirt with someone else, be prepared for a tempest. They may not show it outwardly at first. Scorpio is good at hiding their feelings until they strike, but internally they might seethe or plot. They might decide to flirt with someone else themselves, not because they want to, but to even the scales to make you feel what they felt. They might secretly check your messages or test your loyalty in some way, actions that are themselves betrayals of trust, spurred by fear of being betrayed. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto and traditionally Mars, planets of transformation, power, and conflict. Betrayal in Scorpio's world is rarely a light or accidental thing. It's epic, dramatic. Either they feel like they've been mortally betrayed, or if they choose to betray, it's almost always with a feeling of justification, as if they are the instrument of karma. They had it coming, or I had no choice because they broke my trust first, or common rationales. A Scorpio rarely betrays just for fun or whimsy. There's usually a story, a build-up, a tipping point. Yet, we must also acknowledge Scorpio's capacity for secrecy and strategy. Even apart from revenge scenarios, Scorpios naturally keep a lot to themselves. They might make moves unknown to you that affect you. For instance, a Scorpio coworker who feels underappreciated might quietly negotiate a new job and leave without a hint, landing your team in trouble. Or a Scorpio friend who has a crush on your partner might harbor it secretly. They'd never overtly betray you unless a moment came where they felt perhaps you didn't deserve that partner, or they rationalized it somehow. A disturbing example is the fable of the scorpion and the frog, which many liken to Scorpio's nature. A scorpion asks a frog to carry it across a river, promising not to sting. Halfway across, the scorpion stings the frog, dooming them both, simply saying, "It's in my nature." Harsh as that tale is, it encapsulates the fatalistic streak of Scorpio, an acknowledgement that under pressure, their instinct can be destructive, even self-destructive. A Scorpio in the throes of anger or hurt might commit a betrayal that also damages them, but they'll still do it to make a point or satisfy an emotional vendetta. However, and this is crucial, if you never betray a Scorpio and you respect their boundaries, you might never see this stinging side directed at you. You may instead experience one of the most unwaveringly loyal bonds possible. Scorpio would take a bullet for those they consider family. They often adopt a protective, almost possessive stance. No one messes with my people except maybe me on a bad day, but even then I won't truly harm them. They compartmentalize friend/foe sharply. It's when someone shifts categories that things get perilous. The story of a fallen angel could be apt, intensely devoted until a single fall from grace flips them entirely. It's not that they flip lightly, it's that the deep intensity they had as love or friendship can invert into equally deep resentment or hatred. The emotional charge remains the same, just the polarity changes. Philosophically, Scorpio challenges us with a concept of loyalty's shadow. Can betrayal sometimes feel like justice? Many Scorpios would say yes if the person deserved it. They view the world in terms of bonds and violations of bonds. Cross a bond, and you unleash something in them that is dark, primeval, almost. Forgiveness isn't easy for them. They either can't do it, or they must go through a long, transformative process to achieve it. Some Scorpios hold grudges for years or forever. But Scorpios also believe in transformation and rebirth. If genuine remorse is shown, and if they still care, sometimes a Scorpio will test and slowly rebuild a broken relationship, stronger perhaps than before, because now both parties know what's at stake. If you survive a fallout with a Scorpio and come out reconciled, you may find them softer and even more loyal, having walked through fire together. Now, under the pitch-black sky of Scorpio's realm, what do we learn? Scorpio, as the sign most likely to betray first, if we consider our list from least to most likely, teaches about the cost of broken trust. With them, it's magnified, like a high-stakes poker game where betrayal is all in. It's a caution. Be very careful with the trust of someone who values it so passionately. And if you are a Scorpio, the lesson might be to not let suspicion or pride lead you to preemptive strikes that create the very betrayal you feared. We end on Scorpio because in many ways they epitomize betrayal's drama, the ultimate friend or the ultimate foe. As you let the weight of this settle, picture a scorpion under the stars. It's solitary, vigilant, armed but still unless provoked. If you come to it with respect, you might pass unharmed and even earn its strange, fierce trust. But if you threaten its world, you might feel that sting that you'll never forget. Scorpio's loyalty is a treasure hard won, and their betrayal is a danger best avoided by honoring the code of trust that, to them, is sacred. We have journeyed from the unwavering loyalty of Taurus to the conditional loyalty of Scorpio, exploring each sign's relationship with trust and betrayal. What a tapestry of human nature we've seen. In truth, anyone can betray or be loyal. Astrology just highlights tendencies, not destinies. Perhaps the takeaway is that understanding someone's values and fears, whether it's Aries' impulsiveness, Libra's conflict avoidance, or Scorpio's all-or-nothing devotion, can help us nurture loyalty and avoid triggers that lead to betrayal. Trust is a delicate bond, woven of honesty, respect, and empathy. When we honor those threads, any zodiac sign can shine as a loyal companion. And when we don't know well, as we've learned, each may break that bond in their own unique way.